statistically, we know what divorce rates are, right? And they tend to be higher around that year 10 mark. And they also tend to be higher with males or females that are in director level roles and above in corporate environments. We want to be mindful. There's a lot of stuff to deal with. And I think it's a matter of being intentional, trying new things, identifying the things that are working and not working. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl, where we are empowering everyday women through our stories. I'm your host, Jessica Smith, and I began this journey by sharing my life story. Now, I've joined forces with my longtime friends, Jamie and Coralyn, to keep this party going. We met many years ago as young sales girls in our 20s, driven and quickly rising to the top of our industry. As the years went on, life happened, and we all found ourselves in new companies and completely different industries, still striving for success in it all. Career, family, faith, fun. Now, it wasn't easy, but we never stopped moving. Get ready for our real conversations, inspiring stories, and our big life lessons as we share it all. The good, the bad, and the funny. Welcome to Lead Like a Girl. Welcome to another episode of Lead Like a Girl. So today we are here to have a fun little discussion that we're just going to hope that our husbands don't listen to this episode, but it seems as though...
Or maybe they need to. I don't know.
We'll see. Mr. Smith tapped out a long time ago, and then every now and then he'll say, something. And I'm like, what the heck is he talking about? Oh, you listened to an episode. I thought you didn't listen anymore. So listen, let's jump right into it. So this episode is for all of the women out there that are balancing their ambition, their leadership, their marriage, the kids, and wondering what the hell is going on? Why is this season just seem so much harder than the honeymoon days, right? So I think about this, Core, and it's like we've both been married, let's just say over 10 years, right? We're in this place in our careers where we're in, let's just say, middle or higher level of leadership. And with that just comes a lot of responsibility, a lot of stress, a lot of time. And let's just be honest, as women, we tend, and this is another show, but we tend to just work a lot harder than sometimes our male counterparts. So I just want to really get into how do we handle it all, right? Like the career is getting more demanding, the kids' schedules are getting busier. We have aging parents that we have to take care of. There's just a lot going on, and that personal time with our spouses, it's hard to come by, but we want to figure out how do we survive, and not just survive, but how do we thrive through these,
right?
What I'll say middle years. So that's what I want to get into today.
Listen, I will preface this with I love my husband.
Yeah.
And I will be with you in hopes that he is maybe listening, maybe not. We'll see how it all turns out. But I will share this story with you. This is what it makes me think of. This would probably happen like a year or two ago, but it resonated with me because what he said to me, it kind of burned me a little bit. And when you have those conversations with your spouses where they say the thing that really, maybe not intentionally, but it really kind of hurt my feelings. Okay. And he said, we were talking about trying to make plans, and he wanted to go do a vacation or go to a concert. I can't remember exactly what it was, but this weekend when we were having this conversation, and I look at him and I just thought, the whole list of all the things that we need to do go through my head. And I said, well, when are we going to have time to do this and this and this and this? And he looks at me and he says, what happened to the spontaneous girl I dated? Yeah, I can see your eyes. What happened to that spontaneous girl that could just go off and do anything? Like, where's she at? And I just looked at him and just thought, oh my goodness. And listeners, I can almost feel it through the airwaves that we've all had this like cringe, like,
Yeah,
dude, do you have any idea? ...
yeah,
And so this conversation we're going to have is a little bit spurred out of maybe some of the conversations like that, also trying to balance our work. But I just think, what do you think? And I have my own reasons where that little girl went, but what do you,
yeah,
she's still here. She's still here. She just looks a little different
yeah.
because there's a lot of different things happening, but
And you were probably really nice with yours because I would have been like, well, number one, she didn't have a kid to take care of because I think that's what really now in my case, I feel like I've always had kids, but I think that that is a big part. And we'll get into that. I think that's where for a lot of people and a lot of relationships and marriages that shit gets real when you start having kids. It's a beautiful time. Of course, we love our kids. It's just things get real. But I want to start off with a good old icebreaker.
oh
And
boy, I'm
hopefully
terrified.
I'm just gonna pick one from my list here. And this one, you'll probably already know the one I'm gonna pick if you had the chance to look at my list, but the petty argument Hall of Fame. So, what is the funniest or the pettiest argument that you tend to have with your spouse? We tend to argue every now and then because you know that I'm a really neat person, but there's some areas in my house and there's some times where I'm not so neat. And one of those is when I've just had just a hard day. I don't know what it is. It's something about, I don't know if it's like a little kid throwing a fit. And I just take off my clothes in the bathroom and I just look at them on the floor and I'm like, I'm not picking them up. And I just leave them there. Seriously. Like I don't even move, like bra is in my shirt type of deal. And it's
It
just,
just fell off of you in
yes,
place. It's like you left your shadow. It's like Peter Pan or something. Like there it is, right there.
no, seriously, that's what it looks like. Shoes and all. And we've been together for freaking 20 years. Dude, why are we still arguing about, because he really, really hates when I do that. And again, it's not very often. It's not an everyday thing. Like I did it the other day, and that was probably I hadn't done it in like months, right? But I just feel like it's so petty. Like, really? Why are we arguing about? I'm gonna pick them up. Let's be clear. I'm not expecting him to pick them up. I'm gonna pick them
Right.
up. And his argument is, but the closet where the hamper is like 10 feet away. And guess what? I don't have 10 feet in me. Matter of fact, I don't even have the 10 feet I have in me, the other direction to the bed. So
That's
that's
hilarious. I feel like my husband has the crank it up cleanliness argument when he's cleaning.
yeah,
If he takes the time and cleans the kitchen, which I appreciate 1,000 times over, I leave one piece of mail on the counter and he looks at me like I just like
killed the dog.
threw up on the counter or something like that. He's like, "What is this?
Yeah,
Don't you see I clean?" And I just sit there and I just shut my mouth and
right.
just say, "Yes, I did. I really appreciate that. Thank you." Or he's doing the dishes and I put like a dirty dish in the sink and
Yeah,
he's like, "What is this? I just did this." I'm like, "I'm sorry. This is how life goes." But
right.
if he puts the effort into cleaning, that's an issue on his part. So that is his annoying with me. I would say on the opposite end of that, the other real petty thing that we constantly bigger heads about is our garbage. It's like 50-50 if it makes it out to the curb on time. And I have set a reminder, a calendar invite. I've reminded him actually in the morning, like, hey, and I don't know what he just is like, honey, I know it's there. And I just start doing stuff. And my husband has all the giftings of ADD, which are a lot of blessings in that, sometimes
Yeah.
sources of frustration. But getting the garbage out on time, we argue about that a lot because we just go through a lot of stuff. And if we have to house our recycling because our recycling bin is full because we didn't get it this week and now we've got to wait 2 weeks for it to
Oh,
come back, it's so frustrating.
well, I have your call for that. You want to know what it is? The kid takes the garbage out.
Yeah.
Oh my, that would be a whole argument, by the way, in my house. If an adult had to take the garbage out, my mom does do that sometimes. And I have to remind her, she just did it today. And I'm like, we
Hmm.
have kids and we're doing them a disservice, especially don't judge me. A little boy needs to be taking out the garbage at all times. You'll thank me later for that one, Coralyn.
Noted. I'm writing it down. Grayson, watch out.
Right.
Auntie Jessica is on a ramp.
Okay, real quick. Here's one more, and then we'll get into it for real. Okay, so pick one to eliminate forever. Okay, is it laundry? Is it dishes? Is it cooking? Is it bedtime routine with the kids? Which one goes out the door?
I'm going to take one from, I'll take option E, paperwork filing. I, with a passion, hate
That wasn't
filing. I know, but that's a task that has to happen that I hate.
Well, wait a minute. Like, what do you mean paperwork filing? Why is there papers in your house? I
get mail. I get like bank statements and all the things. Yeah. I mean, there's something, or receipts.
Okay, core.
Yes.
How old are you? Bank statements in the mail?
Yeah.
You still get bank statements in the mail? That's crazy.
I mean, some. Don't judge me.
Well, you know what? I didn't know this was going to be a problem-solving session.
I know, right?
For you.
Just get electronic.
Is it that you just like to see them, or because you can also see them on the screen?
Right. But let's be honest. Are you going in and checking your billing and things like that on the online? Like, do you do that regularly?
No, but I wouldn't do
Right.
it in the mail either. So I have a really, I hate mail. I hate paper. It gets stacked up. Like, it makes me angry.
Me too.
So sometimes I literally just walk from the mailbox to the garbage can. And, we have a few people in our house, and sometimes they ask, there's no mail today? And I'm like, no, there's no mail. It's because I've thrown it out.
It's all in the garbage.
It's all in the garbage.
No, I think more so it's not everyday stuff. I do get a lot of stuff electronically, but there are some things, receipts, things like that we need to keep. And it just creates clutter. Like, I just spent some time organizing some things. I've got a couple boxes to take to the paper shredder. So it's just things like that. I'm coming to terms with it. Like, I'm way better now than I was, call it 5-6 years ago, where I would just save everything. And that's just dumb. I just had to come to Jesus with myself. Like, I do not need to keep all these things. And if I need them for some crazy reason, I can find it. But
well, here's another thing. And listen, we might be solving multiple problems on this episode, so I'm glad we're talking about this. So I have Adobe Scan on my phone. And so there are things like that I've gotten the habit of. I just scan it right away, and then I tear it up, throw it in the garbage immediately because of that very reason. Like, seriously, like, papers just drive me so crazy that I just can't allow something to move me like that, because I'll get in a whole mood and people are like, what's wrong with you? And I'm like, these papers, they're driving me crazy. So I literally have files on my phone in Adobe Scan. And I keep those things, like you said, receipts or whatever. So
that's probably something that could change my life. I might have to upgrade into that.
Yeah. And and I don't know how I'm doing it, but I still have the free version of the app too. And you could turn things into PDFs and then email them. It's pretty convenient. I use it a lot during tax time with my tax guy. Anyway, good icebreaker. I just want to really, again, talk through this because I know for many people, sometimes it happens out of nowhere, right? Because you have a job, maybe you become a people leader, you start moving up in your career, and one day you just are like, wow, like, this is a lot. What do I do? So I want to just kind of talk through some of those things that can get us to that point, and what are we doing to solve those things? What are some of the things? Tell me about when you can think back to when your job just turned into that next level of demand. What do you?
Well, traveling is definitely a key piece of that. I feel if you have to go out of town for work, if it's a day trip or a few day trip, that adds another level of management. Absolutely. Not only work management, but home life management. And especially, I think it really got a little bit more intense when our son was not able to stay at home. So it was trying to figure out after school pickup and morning routine and different things like that. And then I would say it also doubled up in the last few years. My husband got a new job that it used to be very flexible, and then it became extremely inflexible
Yeah.
because he would have standard meetings, be teaching, doing things like that, where just he has to be there. And so that flexibility kind of came back on me to be able to do all the things I would normally do, but now I don't have a partner that has a flexible schedule, so it was a little bit more challenging.
Yeah. And so how did you work through it? And is it, you for some people it's finding help. I talk to other women that have these challenges, and I've found that sometimes they feel guilty getting help. And what I mean by that, for some people, it's hiring someone if you are able to do that financially, but just this feeling that, wow, I can't do it all. And I have to actually hire someone to help me pick up the kids or help me clean the house and that type of stuff. What did you
Mhm.
do when you got to that point?
Well, we've got grandmas in town, so grandmas are definitely a lifeblood
Yep.
for us, and so that helps out a lot. My husband's mom lives in town, and she's really flexible and has been amazing with pickups and trying to navigate life before and after school if we need it. My mom comes down sometimes. I always kind of say if I'm gone, if I'm out of town for more than 2 days, I bring in the cavalry. My mom comes down, and sometimes I feel, and she maybe feels like she's not useless, but a lot of times we've got stuff planned in the evenings, but it almost gives me a little peace of mind having her here, even though our guy might be at school. We might be like, there might not be anything major going on, but it's great to have somebody here on the, just to keep everything moving together. And it gives me a little peace of mind if I'm out of town, so I can focus on what I'm doing and come back and ready to go. But there's just the travel and all of that just requires another level of communication. I even like take this week, for example, I'm leaving for an out of town trip. I'm going to be gone tomorrow through Friday. And but you talk about a little bit of a frustration where I'm already thinking of, okay, I need to do this and this. Grayson needs to be at basketball. We've got piano lessons. We've got a lot of different things that are happening to coordinate schedules. And I'm trying to run my husband through, hey, FYI, I'm gone. These are the different things. And after I go through the whole laundry list of things, he looks at me and he says, wait, you're going out of town? What? I just like, oh,
I
darling.
I stopped that. I stopped that because um I send the calendar invite and we still have those conversations. And I'm like, that was just a waste of my time. So I'm not doing it anymore. I stopped the calendar.
I still send calendar invites to make sure, especially with different outings or different events, I have that on. But this is also kind of a little bit of tip of the trade, is that I bought call it a clipboard. It's probably similar to like having a whiteboard, but it's a small clipboard with a small calendar that literally sits upright on our counter. So where we kind of gather and everything,
Yeah.
I have a calendar that's there. We do it month by month, and I just put a line through if I'm traveling, if we've got any major events. So it's literally front and center on our
Mm,
counter where we just keep everything. So I used to have it on the fridge, but even then it wasn't front and center. So it was like, you just like, it's there, but nobody looks at it. So I looked for something, and I'm not even kidding. I paid $50 for a wood one that didn't look like a giant industrial eyesore in the middle. So it looks kind of cute,
do
but
not
it's a clipboard for our calendar. What'd you say?
do not disrespect whiteboards because
I
and I have them everywhere. But I love what you're saying because so we come into our through our garage door, okay? And this thing is gigantic and it's on the wall, but I don't think it's an eyesore, but it's kind of off into the hallway. But that's where I would put things. And then it was, do you think I'm looking at that board? I didn't see because I would say, it's on the board because the calendar invites weren't doing it, right? It's on the board. He's like, I'm not looking at that white.
uh-huh.
It's a huge board when you walk in the door, and I got all color coordinated and everything. So stop doing that. But I love what you just said. But I'm going to have to find something not that goes on the counter, something that goes in the bed.
Just
No, on the TV. You know what? There needs to be something that in the middle of sports, like if it can just come up on your TV randomly.
it's you and your voice saying, hello, Mr. Smith. Just so you know, you have 3 events going on tomorrow.
I think that, no, seriously, that could be a new invention that it just randomly pops up on your TV screen because he will definitely see it then if it pops up on the TV screen.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, that's good stuff. So here's another area. We talked a little bit about busy schedules, how you work around that. Another area that I think when you get to the mid-level career and things start getting a little busier, like we said, we've been married now, 10 years. How do you get that? And I envy you because me personally, I don't have time. I have the friendships I have are all virtual and, through text messages. I feel like I don't, and I'll get into that in just a second. But first, I want to talk about your alone time with your spouse. I'm trying to figure out where do I squeeze that in because it's already, no, wait, I'm going to go to the kids first. We talked about this today when you said that the kid had basketball and piano. I have a rule and I have friends that have multiple kids in multiple sports and multiple things. And I am not mentally meant for that. So I don't know. Does that make me a bad mom? Maybe, but I'm sorry. You can't, in my house, you can't do basketball and piano. Pick one because I can't mentally, we have no room for both. So what are we going to do? How do you do? So one, the kid thing, I think you had said something about you do get help with that piece. So that's a little bit of it. But when do you say enough is enough or it's not too much? Or do you feel bad if you can't say yes to everything? It's like, Mom, I want to do this. I want to do this. I want to do this. How do you do that?
So the piano he's growing to like it, but that was a bartering piece. He wanted to play sports. And so I said, you can play sports if you also play the piano.
Okay.
And
so you felt you needed both.
It was one of those things, like, do you ever make decisions for your kids because you wish you had this as a child and you like that ship has sailed? It's a plausible that I could learn to play the piano. I probably won't because I don't want to that bad. But if I was forced into doing it as a kid and I could play the piano now, I would love to be able to play an instrument.
Oh, okay.
Therefore, I feel like my son, I want him to play an instrument.
Yeah.
And best place to learn it as a child. And so whether or not he keeps with it for the rest of his life, at least we did that due diligence. Plus, I feel like it's good for his brain. Either way, making time for both in that respect. And so usually we don't have 2 things going on in the same night, but it's just you kind of are at the mercy of when the piano teacher has an opening and practices just get scheduled and you're like, oh, well, that's great. And so it's like tonight, so we have basketball and a podcast. So it's a lot of things, lot of things happening. But here's the thing is that I had read this and you probably are familiar with because I think a lot of pastors use this in terms of your prayer times and just meditation and making time for your spiritual practices that they talk about. If you have a jar, are you filling it with your rocks or your sand? Have you heard of this analogy before?
No.
Well, so the gist of it is that if you have a jar and you have a cup of sand and you pour all the sand, all the insignificant things into this jar first, and then you try to put all these rocks in after, the most important things, they're not all going to fit.
Yeah.
But if you dump it all out and you put your rocks in first, all of the main things, the things that you put at high priority, you put those in first, and then the sand gets poured in around the rocks, then it all fits together. So I think that the moral of the story is that you have to set your priorities on what's most important. And to your point, it's important for us to have a Grayson involved in extracurricular. It's also important for downtime, but then also for my spouse too. And this has always been a contention. Like I just shared with you, my husband loves doing things. He loves going out and being entertained. He loves attention. He loves my attention, all the things. And I want to do that for him. But there's some times where, and the other thing we've talked about before is that we have a different of priority because I feel work gets done first and then we play second. And he is literally the exact opposite, which is not bad.
Yeah.
He wants to play first, like, let's go do all the fun things. And we don't need to work 100% of the time. And so our marriage is trying to find the happy medium in both of those things. And sometimes I win and sometimes he wins. And so it's prioritizing what's important, but it's also, I think, a lot of being flexible with the time that you have and being able, like, I need to concede sometimes. All right, well, maybe we don't need to do that project. We can go to the concert. We can go to our friend's house, like, whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
What
No,
do you think? Do you guys
we're opposite in that area as well, which I think that's why the opposites attract thing. But I just want to go back and I want to make a point to encourage people because I just talk to so many people who struggle with, especially the ones that have more than one kid, who struggle with that. I don't know. A part of me feels like they just do it out of guilt. And I'm here to tell you that I don't do a lot of that kid stuff. Hayden wants to play the drums. And I said, great, you're going to do that as long as you're not doing it in golf season, because we're not doing both. And I refuse to believe that I'm not a good mom or that my kid's not going to be successful because he's not doing all the things. I mentally don't know how to balance, have, like you said, my career. I have my husband. And then there's what God called me to do, which is help people. There's that. And it's hard. And some people can't even fit in what they're made to do because they're so consumed with their own family. And to me, my kid, I want him to be successful, but I also know that God called me to do something outside of my household. So I just want to make sure that moms know your limits when it comes to your kids. And if you can't have them in all the things, that's okay. Because sometimes if it's too much off balance, then, you end up losing your husband because you don't have time for him because you got time for the kids too much.
I was just having a conversation about this with another parent because at the level, so my son's in 5th grade and everything's starting to turn into travel soccer, travel basketball, travel this and travel that.
Right.
And I'm sitting here and I was a sports kid. I appreciate a good competition game, but I also feel to a lot of degree that whether he's playing the kid from our town or the kid from the team that's an hour away, it doesn't really matter. He just needs to practice like people. And so but the challenge is if you don't sign up for these travel sports, there's nothing else for them at this level. And it's a cat and mouse game that you end up getting caught up in because they want to play. And I want him to be, if he wants to play sports, I want him to play sports. And I like watching him, but I
Yeah.
also feel like these things don't need to take up all day Friday, all day Saturday, all day Sunday.
It gets crazy. I'm
It
telling you, I talk
does.
to people and I'm just like, I don't know. I have no idea how you do it. Like I could not even imagine living in your shoes. And so I just,
Mhm.
but husbands. Now, you just said, I got a husband that loves attention, that loves my attention, right? Some of us, and again, have, I'm gonna say, needy husbands than others because I do know people that are like, now let me just be clear. Mr. Smith is one. He's the same way. He has no social life. If you put the guy in front of a television and give him food, he will sit there and he is completely content watching sports all day long. Let me just be very clear. Okay. So there's not a lot to do there. However, he does require attention from me. And there are just some times that, again, I'm like, where do I find this energy? Because if I'm not strategic in balancing all of these other things, something has to give. And if I'm being honest, there's plenty of times where I'm like, okay, I need to figure out my gym life here. I need to figure out and if that means okay, it's me time or him time, have to pick me time. And so it's like, what do you do? What are
Well,
some
it just can't be when you have those breaks, it just can't be me time 100% of the time. We have to say yes to the other things that they're interested. So Harrison's not into sports as much, but he does like I said, concerts, music. He likes playing games. He's into fitness and things like that. And so it's a lot of different things that revolve around that. But he wants me to be there. Like, let's go do this. Let's go. And and at some point, I'm like, I don't want to go to your rock concert. I don't like that music. I can't sing along. I don't even know what they're saying. It's loud. It doesn't start till 11. Like, pick any of those answers. And that's why I don't want to go. But I will go to a concert every now and then because he wants me to, and I feel like I want to like show up for him in that way and
Okay.
not be partying the entire time.
Well, I don't want to make you red and blotchy, Coralyn, but I have to
Oh
say
boy.
this this is a best kept secret. You know, again, we're talking about being busy career women, and time is a problem. And you know, you think about going to the concert, you think about date night, you think about all these things that you have to do. And there are some people who may not realize this. Maybe they're not at this point in their marriage, but I'm telling you that there is, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. We're going to call it sexy time. Okay. There is definitely an opportunity if you put in quality time and work in that area. It goes so much further than, like, one good night is probably better than 10 concerts. Would you agree?
Yeah. I yes.
Sorry.
And I hate to use that very intimate time together that we have as a catalyst to get the things that I want, but I think our listeners know that it goes a long way.
I mean, it really has a strong ROI. Listen, I'm preaching to myself here because I have to remember that sometimes. And I know, ladies, sometimes it's hard. We're tired and all of that. But I will just tell you that I've just learned over the years. I mean, unless your spouse is some sort of alien, I think that sometimes we just got to put in some quality time in that area, and it'll make up for the time that you can't put in. Maybe
Have you ever heard of the Love Languages book?
that sounds familiar. Yeah, I feel like yes.
So I mean, listeners, if you've never read it, it actually is very eye-opening to go through this book with your spouse. And it falls along the lines of a little bit of a personality test, but it's deeper than that. And it's how you feel loved.
Yeah.
And there's maybe 5 or 6 different options, but the way that I feel loved is acts of service. When people do things for me and around me, help me with the to-do list, doing those things,
Yes.
that is my love language.
Yes.
My husband is personal touch. And
Mhm.
so the challenge is, like, if you go through some of these marriage classes, is that
I was gonna say that's where we went through it.
yeah. And so the challenge is my natural inclination is to love my husband the way that I want to be loved, which is like doing all these things. Like, so when he's not feeling loved, I'm like, look at all these things I do. I do the dishes and I balance a checkbook and I got all these things. And he's like, I don't care because you haven't hugged me in a week.
Right.
And the same thing, he's like, and I am sitting here wanting him to help me with all these things. And I feel neglected when the house is in disarray.
Yeah.
And he's trying to get in my space and give me a hug and like be affectionate. And I'm like, dude, step away, like do the garbage and then come give me a hug. So we've figured this out like several years ago, and it always pops up because relationships are always work and it's always challenging. But I think that the more that you can understand where your spouse is coming from, and like you said,
Yeah.
have that ROI, like however, like it doesn't make a bit of difference at all the work that I'm doing if I don't have that affectionate time that he wants and that he feels loved, then it's all the stuff that I'm doing is all for naught anyways. It's just for me, which is fine, but it also is not gonna help the happy home life.
Right. No, I think that's good. And you reminded me that another thing that we did entering this, you know, really just going, because listen, my situation was such that I had this life and actually when we first met, and it was crazy, and so much so that our first I don't know how many years of our relationship, probably the first 10 years, he didn't even know I knew how to cook. He swore up and down I didn't know how to cook because that's how busy I was. And I'm like, no, I know how to cook. I just don't have time. And then we went to this whole other life where things were different, and I was working Monday through Friday now, and I was working regular hours, and we had to pivot into this. And I think what happened is everyone got spoiled. And then all of a sudden it went kind of back to that old life again, and it was like, oh, what like what's going on? And one of the things that really I think helped make that transition is going to marriage counseling, taking marriage classes, being part of a marriage small group. And it's so funny because I remember people used to always, okay, what's your story? Like who cheated or who, and it was probably one of my proudest moments every time it would come to us. And we're like, well, we're here for more of a proactive approach instead of a reactive approach. And
Yeah.
nobody believed us. But, I think that is another area that, when you are at that level and things are just crazy, do things like that, invest. And I don't know if a lot of people are like us where we didn't have that example of what a good marriage is. Had no idea. We had a really good example of what a bad marriage looked like. So I think being proactive and doing some of those things, don't wait until your marriage is in shambles. These are things that could get you to hard places. And why not get tools in your toolbox that can help you navigate that, right? So, we talked about just the time, the house stuff, the kids stuff, the marriage stuff. What about finances? Do you think when you get to this level in your career that there's pressure that is applied financially? And if so, why? I think for me, it's, you get to a point where now you're making more money, right? And so what pressure does that bring on the marriage?
If you're not in alignment with where you want to spend your money, in terms of, have you had conversations about saving, what types of things that you want to spend money on? My husband is kind of a gadget guy. He likes to invest in different things that sometimes I don't see as exceptionally useful items in our household.
Yeah.
But and so those or vacationing, or when you have conversations on if you're going to do home improvement, are we going to do it ourselves? Are we going to hire it out? Those kind of things, I feel like, because when you have fewer resources, the answer is yes, I'm going to do it myself. No, we can't go on vacation. There's less to play around with, I think, or you need to get a little bit more creative probably. But when you have a little bit more influx of spending, then you get to think a little bit more, and the dreams that you dream become a little bit more expensive. And then I also think too, there's a huge piece of how do you share it with others?
Mhm.
And if you haven't grown up with a condition of generosity and sharing and donating and tithing and those types of things, then that becomes a conversation too, because at some point, if you say, for example, just rudimentary, we're going to donate 10%. Well, 10% of a little number, it was like, oh, okay, well, we can maybe do that. But then as your income starts getting bigger, that 10% gets to be a big chunk. And then you're like, wait, we're supposed to give away how much money?
Yeah.
And I think that those are really healthy conversations to have. So people who aren't married yet, talk about those things ahead of time. But I mean, the best time to start talking about those things are now,
Yeah.
and before it gets totally out of control, when you don't have those things and those parameters and those guardrails set up beforehand.
Yeah. Well, but to your point that you just made, because you just went exactly where I was going to go, Core, and that is you can talk about these things because our listeners might be thinking, well, shit, I mean, you're past 10 years of marriage at this point. I'm sure you guys have all those things already straightened out. And yes, we have, and we do. But to your point of what you just said is that when you get to those higher income brackets and you start talking about, 10% of this number, that could, someone in the marriage could be like, well, wait a minute, hold on, wait. I figured we'd go on a nice vacation. That's extra money. So I think it's, just understanding that this is something that can change, and it can change like I thought we we're on the same page here. So that's something else to think about. And again, it's another area where you see how you get to that level, and what's the song? More money, more problems. I mean, that's kind of the concept here, right? It's like, it really changes things for a lot. I want to touch on one more thing when it comes to spouses. That now, again, I'm preaching to myself. Once upon a time, things got really busy, and obviously I'm not in this situation today, but I know that I will be again. And so, what do you think about like scheduled date nights? Like, have you done it? Is it helpful? We've done it, and then it's good for a couple months, and then we fall off. So, how's it been for you?
Same. I say in theory, it's great. And the people that I know that hold firm and tight to their date nights. And I think the ability to maintain it, one is purposeful, rocks versus sand, like we were talking about, but also the cadence of it has an impact. I think that every Friday night, we have a family friend of ours that every Friday night they have date night. That's just what it is. Every Friday night, every week, with very few exceptions, date night is Friday night. And that's great. However, I feel like that doesn't necessarily work for us. And we have a little bit of an issue, and I don't know if you can resonate with this, that our idea of what checks off the date night box requires us always leaving the house, always doing something where we're spending money, always doing the thing. And I think that some of the things that I would pick up as like, oh, that was a date in our fees as married people, like that doesn't fall in the date bucket in my husband's register. Like that was just hanging out. We were just working out. We just went on a walk. That doesn't count as a date.
Right. So we went through that, and we had to have a conversation. And that is because same exact thing. It's like that. And I said, no, here's the thing. We're going to figure this out where you get to, because that was the other thing. It's like, oh, well, it's always on me to figure out what we're doing. And we're like, no, here's another work. This is more work for me. I make decisions all day long. I don't want to make a decision.
Plan the vacation. Tell me what you want to do. You put the itinerary together, and I will just blindly walk off the plank. Like, let's just do it.
Which is, anyway. But so what we ended up doing is the compromise was you pick a date, the next time. So we just, go back and forth and take turns. And I said, and I want to be clear, when I get to pick, if that means I just want to stay in bed and watch a movie from the bed, okay, and eat popcorn, whatever, that's okay. That is a date night. That's my date night. And he's like, okay, but we had to figure that part out because to your point, it's like, that's not a date. So now it's known, okay, now we got to compromise here. I will do that. The other night, I thought we were going on a date. And then he invited Hayden. And I'm like, the kid on the date with us? Why is, and Hayden was like, really? And I was like, yeah. And then when we got there, the kid complained about his food, didn't eat his food, $28 burger. I'm like, see, next time, damn kid stays at home. No kids allowed on a date. Simple as that.
I would agree with that. I would say, I don't think it's considered a date if there's kids.
Because now it's family night. To me, that's a family.
Yeah. Which is also important, but it doesn't check the same bucket for sure.
Exactly.
We don't have that much. I'm probably more the one that would say, hey, we should bring Grayson with. Like, he would like this. And Harrison's like, then that's not a date. Then he'll be pouty pants.
Right. Hayden was asking me at first, so where are you guys going? And, oh, I've never been there, like hinting around. I'm like, and you're not going today. We're going. And then, he's in the car with us like, yeah, I'm here.
Yeah.
So listen, I love this conversation. I know we could probably sit and talk about this all night. I just want a couple more things and we could be done with this. I want to say that statistically, we know what divorce rates are, right? And they tend to be higher around that year 10 mark. And they also tend to be higher with males or females that are in director level roles and above in corporate environments. Now, that is also another show because I think there's some other things that feed to that. But I would say that we want to be mindful. And that's what I hope that people take away, is that there's a lot of stuff to deal with. And I think it's a matter of being intentional, trying new things, identifying the things that are working and not working, because I'm sure, listen, my goal is to be married forever, right? And some of you know this is my third marriage, and I'm that three strikes you're out. Like, I don't get another chance. That's how my brain is programmed. So
Mm-hmm.
I think I am very thankful, not to, turn it into a sermon, but God made marriage, God honors marriage. And I believe that the key and success to our marriage and why we're still married is because that's at the forefront of what we do for
Yeah.
both of us. So that's what I want to leave our listeners with, is that God created marriage, God honors marriage. And if that is at the forefront of your marriage, then all this stuff we're talking about, he'll figure it out for you. So that's all I got.
Mm-hmm. And I yes, and I think that the middle years, like when you have kids that are in, it doesn't mean that there's something wrong. If you feel like there's some tension there, I feel it more is that we're full. And I
Yeah.
hate using the word busy. I've gravitated to using the word full instead. But there's just a lot of things happening, and I have to keep reminding myself is that sometimes my ambition is not the same as my husband, and that's okay. And my drive and my goals don't have to compete with my marriage and my husband and attention and all the things. They can all coexist together, but it requires communication, it requires flexibility, it requires sometimes saying no to things that we really want to say yes to and compromising. And it's all a dance and it's hard, but to your point, it's we are married, we said I do, and we have to work together to make these things happen, and having these conversations on how we want to handle it together, not I'm going this way and you're going that way either. And I think that we're not in this spontaneous, like I started off, like I might not be that super spontaneous person where I didn't have a lot of responsibility. I didn't have a kid. I didn't have all these different things where I could say yes to a lot of things, but we also get all these new moments of sitting together in a house that we love, in an area that we enjoy, watching our child do things we've never experienced before. And just remembering those things are also huge blessings, even though we can't say yes to all of the things.
Right.
Yeah. Like it just shows like life looks different, but it's still all great.
Absolutely. I love it. So listen, I hope that you all enjoyed this episode of just all of the things when you're at that mid to upper level in your career. There's a lot of stuff happening, and how do you juggle it all? So I hope that you took something away. I hope that you could share this with other people that you're aware of that are at this point in their career and they're juggling it all. Leadlikeagirllab.com. In the next month or so, we will be doing some new updates to our website. You will see a difference in our YouTube. So, Lead Like a Girl Lab on YouTube. Subscribe and share. Leave us some comments, give us some feedback. We are on all social media: Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and coming soon to LinkedIn. So we are going to really start, honing in on our professional audience. So coming soon, look for us on LinkedIn and share with your professional girlies. And this is a perfect episode to start with, right, Cor?
Uh-huh.
So until next time, lead like a girl. We're out.